Okay, we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. This is a lovely Wednesday. It's snowy where Greg is, and it's gloomy and foggy where I am. We got a friend of the channel, Greg. It's an honor to have you. We've been
Oh, it's
wanting
an honor
to.
to be here, much more so, I imagine. I really appreciate you having me on, and it's great to be able to finally talk to you face to face.
Yeah, you've been just kind of you provide so many awesome comments and just detailed discussion topics in a lot of my videos, and it's just been such a joy to kind of have that back and forth. And here we are. We get to hang out and talk. And I thought maybe a good question that you mentioned in the email, what makes a book worth reading? And I guess what elements,
Right.
go into a good book?
I feel it's really important, right? Because so many people, they will pick up a book, and if they don't end up enjoying it, then they feel like it's a waste of time. It isn't like if you watch a sitcom, well, that was like 20 minutes of my time. It wasn't such a big deal. But if you pick up a book and you just keep thinking that it's going to get better and it doesn't, or you DNF it, that sometimes makes you feel like, I wasted my time, or I didn't complete this thing, and that makes me feel badly. So yeah, I've spent some time just thinking about what really does make a book good for me.
Yeah. And that is you at the very end of the question for me, because it is subjective.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people are gonna love different books that I am not gonna love, or vice versa. And yeah, it is interesting because let's start off from the beginning. How long have you been like really seriously reading, and how did that journey begin?
So I don't mind telling your audience. I'm old. I'm 56 years old, and I've been reading for a very long time. I would say over 50 years, probably 52 years that I've been reading. I started out reading when I was very young. It was one of these unusual things that I don't remember learning how to read. There's a lot of people, I think, that they really remember when they're in school, like gradually improving, when they're learning from teachers how to read. It's just one of those things that I think that my mind naturally picked up. So I remember my mother encouraging me. I remember going to the library with her and reading Peanuts books. And then later on, I remember getting into Greek mythology and things like that. So I've just been a reader for the longest amount of time, which is kind of unusual. It's only over the last, half a dozen, maybe 10 years where I've really sort of tried to focus a little bit more on it rather than it just sort of being this thing in my background. And I always do it, but I don't put like a lot of focus and thought into it. I used to just find things that I liked and pick them up, and I would get into certain authors and certain stories and read those, and then others maybe not so much. But I think ever since I bought a Kindle, I've been just more interested in trying to broaden my horizons more than I had when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah, Kindles are something else. I was gifted one, like a used one from my sister, and it helped me in the middle of Wheel of Time because, when you mentally look or just look at a thick book, it's intimidating sometimes where you're just like, oh my gosh, and then you just see your progress physically. You see your progress of the pages. You're like,
right.
I'm 50 pages in and I still have this much space left. But with a Kindle, you're able to kind of compartmentalize, zoom
Exactly.
in, and and you're able to comfortably read at night without a lamp. There's a nice, it's like that. You can read laying down. You don't have this giant book and you accidentally drop it on your face.
Yeah, you can just hold it any way that you want, in any weird position that you want. You can buy all kinds of technology in order to be able to turn the pages any way that you want. If you want like a separate Bluetooth connector, you can do that. So there's all kinds of things. Interestingly enough, I originally bought the Kindle because I do like technology and I wanted to see how it behaved. And then it was a really good way to buy certain books that were inexpensive. Basically, if you wait long enough, I found on any book that you want, you could usually get it for $2 or $3. When if you read as much as I can tend to read, that's really beneficial. But interestingly enough, I went through Song of Ice and Fire on the Kindle as an experiment to see, will I enjoy being able to read books that are that long? Because I don't want to buy them. Like, I have so many books and we have so many bookshelves in this house. Like, I don't need another set of tomes that are like this. And I found out that, yeah, you can, as long as you get over that fact that you don't see the progress, right? Like you can with physical pages and a bookmark. You just look at the percentage at the bottom. But since it's the same page and the screen just keeps changing, it can sometimes be intimidating. You just have to forget it and just keep reading. Yeah. So yeah, I read all 5 books of the Song of Ice and Fire series on a Kindle and had no problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm doing that with Wheel of Time too. I own the first 3 physically, but I bought them all in a bundle for like $15, $16 or something.
That's like the way to do it.
All 14 books, the prequel and the 2 encyclopedias that they have. So I'm just finished book 5.
Nice.
I'm going to start Lord of Chaos soon.
Without any spoilers, what did you think of 5? At least that ending.
I really liked it. Yes, I did. Robert Jordan is interesting because there are some times where you think that the story is just a little bit slow because he enjoys description, and sometimes he just enjoys focusing on a certain aspect of the characters or something that they're thinking about. So this isn't really a spoiler, but if anyone hasn't read Wheel of Time and they want to like have absolutely no reveals about it, then you can turn this off for 30 seconds. But like, for example, in this book, I remember Nynaeve talks a lot about how she doesn't like revealing clothing. And it just seems like it's like a lot. I'm like, I kind of got it by now. But I understand, I think, why Robert Jordan does that. I think it gives you more insight into the kind of character that she is and what she thinks about other characters who don't necessarily fit the type of personality that she has. I think it also gives some insight into what the people of Two Rivers are like based on that. Because I think she puts everybody in the Two Rivers into that category and the way that they are more modestly dressed. So when I think back on it, and this is what I like to do with reading, I read, I have initial impressions as I'm reading. And then after I'm done, I'll reflect on it. And I say, oh yeah, even though I do think he spent a lot of time really hitting that point home, I think it does give us more of an insight as to who Nynaeve is and potentially how she's going to grow and change over the next 10 books, however many.
10 more books, yeah. Let me catch up with the chat. We got a lot of good afternoon from Scotland. We got a good morning here.
Cool.
We got a how's it going, everyone? Good afternoon from Manchester. How you all doing? And then good afternoon from Serbia with love. Well, good afternoon.
People from other countries. It's incredible.
It's a lot. It's good mornings and good afternoons. We haven't got a good evening yet. But with, I guess, yeah, what book? Because you've been reading so much, but not crazy serious as a reader as like the last like decade, you say. So what?
Yeah, I just felt that I started paying more attention. I'm like, I think, you know what, to be honest, I played a lot of computer games from like all of my childhood, like forever. And so, and especially when social media really took off, like everyone else, I think I got pretty addicted to it. And then I said, you know what, I'd rather spend my time, if possible, doing reading instead, because I think that's going to build me in a way that social media isn't. I'm spending too much time with this. I'd much rather spend it reading. Yeah. So that's why I decided to put focus.
What book really kind of lit that fire, that light bulb where you're like, okay, this is actually something I really want to pay attention to. And this is something that, like, I guess a book that maybe changed your life. Maybe, I don't know.
Do you mean recently or like just any time over?
I'd say the one that started the momentum into making reading a truly serious thing for you. Like,
I would say just 2 of my most favorite books that I've read are Jurassic Park, which you've spoken about a lot,
yeah.
and A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving, which I know I've spoken to you about, John
Yeah.
Irving, a lot. It's a fantastic book. And I find that the Booktube community doesn't seem to talk about John Irving enough. It's especially interesting because he just came out with a book this last few months ago and didn't get a lot of talk. It's a fantastic book, especially if you like coming of age stories and you want to learn about characters growing up, their interactions, their relationships, and how that changes and grows over the course of many decades, plus a fantastic plot to go along with it. That really had an impact on me. And because of that book, I've now read like 90% of his books. I think there are only two novels of his that I haven't read, very early ones. I started to just inhale all of his books. And the same thing happened with Jurassic Park. I picked that up because I think I was going to college and I saw it in the bookstore, and I was always a big fan of dinosaurs. And it has that fantastic cover of the T-Rex fossil on it. And so I picked it up, and it's just amazing. We're so used to it now because of the movie. But at the time, before the movie came out, it was an extraordinarily interesting and revolutionary idea. It's like, what if we could bring these things that people have such a fascination with back to life? And what can I do with it in order to teach a moral about human beings and their place in the world? Yeah. So after that, it was the same as John Irving. I like devoured all his books too.
Yeah. That is fascinating with, I guess, the time in which it was written and published, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of us youngins, we look at that book as, oh, it's a classic, or, oh, it's better than the movie, or it's different from the movie. Right. And we have the context of the movie and that comparison. So what a time to be alive and see it on the shelf and have no movie.
No movie. And then when the movie came out, to be able to go see it with my friends who also liked Crichton, and to just see that unfold, even though it is different, it's, let's say for the sake of argument, it's 80% the same, right?
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. But with the Spielberg magic to it, it's definitely more Spielbergian in the way that the characters are, as opposed to the darker side that Crichton.
Have you read Jaws?
I had a long time ago.
That's another.
So when I was a kid, my father had bought it back in the 70s. So I did read it either in the late 70s and early 80s, but it's been a very long time. So I've not read it.
What a book that just, because again, I had the Steven Spielberg film in my mind.
Yeah.
This book was completely different and was a lot scarier than I expected. And it was more scary in the aspect of the human side of it, and not the what's in the ocean.
Right.
There were some scenes in there that I'm like, what? That genuinely had me shaken. Never going to read that book again.
Yeah, if I recall, you said that you weren't overly fond of it.
No.
Yeah.
Oh wait, what is this? Oh, okay. We got.
What are folks saying?
I think when an author invests in world building, mythology, story, characters, you find oneself fully invested in the reading experience. Yeah, I mean, we can now talk about what from your reading experience and what you like and what you don't like and what you've developed in your tastes. Start us off with what do you think makes a book worth reading?
So I was discussing this with a friend of mine, Derek, over the last year or so, after we both watch YouTube videos on it and kind of analyze what things that people talk about when it comes to books. And he came up with the concept that he sees that all of the different portions and parts and aspects of the book he considers to be various axes. And that, so for plot, you can is along one axis, story and characters would be on another, and theme would be on another. And those are the ones that I personally consider to be the most important. And depending on the author, any of these different properties, you're going to be really strong in some, and you're going to be really weak in others. And the strongest books for you are going to be the ones that that you're hitting the right buttons, or they're hitting those right buttons for you on those axes. And I think our point of view is that if any of them are lacking in one area, then the others better be extraordinarily strong. Otherwise, you're just going to bounce off of it and not enjoy it at all. So I find for those two authors that I just mentioned, John Irving and Michael Crichton, that they're really strong on all three of those. The stories are great. The characters are extraordinarily interesting, and they grow and change over the course of the book. And the themes are also very strong. As I said, for Jurassic Park, the theme is obviously human beings, and when they take on too much and they do things that perhaps they should not meddle in, and how Crichton explores that theme.
Yeah.
I think it's extraordinarily unique, and not something back in whenever the heck it came out, late in the 80s, that was probably quite touched upon in this way.
Now, for me, when I go into a book, you say the word theme. It's funny, like growing up in school and you're studying theme. Like, what's a theme?
Yeah.
Even now, I'm like, I don't read for themes because I'm not going into a book looking for a message or a theme. I go into a book for, I guess, on the surface, a story with characters that I care about or am at least intrigued by. And whatever happens in that story, I hope I'm eager to follow these characters within that story and how the events play out.
Right.
Now, I think the theme or the messaging or what, however you want to say it, is, I think it's slowly, at least in my experience, I feel it.
Yeah.
Underneath. And it might happen immediately. It might happen after I finish the book. It might happen slowly throughout as I read it. And then it's just kind of in the back of my mind. I'm like kind of thinking about it. I'm like, huh. And then definitely when I put that book down and I'm done with it,
right,
I just sit with it. And then maybe I'm reading another book, but I'll continue to think about that one book I finished. And it's definitely, that theme aspect is underneath. And that's for me. I never really go into a book immediately searching for a theme. What does it mean? What is it,
When I was younger, I definitely didn't think about it much. And as I got older, and especially over the last few years where I wanted to concentrate on classics a little more and go back over some of the classics that I read in high school and late elementary school that really ended up speaking to me, like The Great Gatsby, Lord of the Flies, then I started to notice a little more this theme, and I drill it down to what is the book about. So I tend to, after I read a book, go visit that question and try to answer it, to see what it was that the author was thinking, what he wanted his readers to come away with after they read the book. So I definitely don't go in thinking so much about it. It's more upon reflection afterward.
I like that. We have a lovely comment here. A book's worth reading if it stops you impulsively pulling your phone out every 5 minutes.
True.
That's great.
That's the other great thing about the Kindle, is because, I do have a physical Kindle and I read on my phone. So, and they sync. So when I'm waiting, so I don't tend to bring a physical book around with me.
Yeah.
If I'm waiting in line at the supermarket or whatever, or I'm in the doctor's office, then I can easily just pull out my phone.
Easy.
And read like that. And I found myself doing that with Pet Sematary last month, actually, that I would be in lines and I just wanted to keep reading it to see what happened. I'd pull out my phone and keep reading the thing, and went through it very fast.
Things like character, plot, world building is subjective to an individual reader. Yeah. I mean, people are going to like certain aspects more than others. Some people don't like dialogue, which is crazy. Right. I had a discussion with someone I know, and he mentioned it was too much dialogue. I'm like, what? I'm at the point where I'll take dialogue or a conversation that goes on for pages and pages and pages more than just a gunfight or a sword fight.
Right.
Because I think with that dialogue, if the characters are built so well and so deep, then I believe that dialogue is going to be sharper than any sword or say.
Sure.
Okay, well, we got a couple good evenings from Philippines.
Good
Morning
evening.
from Chicago. And then I've been reading since I was around 8 years old. I started with Goosebumps by R.L. Stine, and A to Z Mysteries by Ron Roy. Those weren't the only ones, but they were the ones that started it all for me. Very cool. Funny thing, let's get back into Stephen King, where I mentioned I feel like he's very much an adult Goosebumps.
Right. I've not read Goosebumps because I'm a little old, so I didn't necessarily read those, but I know in general what they're like, and I definitely get it, and I agree with you. One thing, my wife and I talk about these books, and she's read a number of Stephen King books as well, and we both find them more suspenseful rather than scary. I find it very difficult to be scared by a book. I can't get immersed in it the way that I can if I'm in a movie theater, it's in the complete dark, and there's this huge screen, and then they throw out a jump scare of some sort. That definitely can startle me and make me feel, quote, scared. But books, it's more suspense. I definitely feel that. There are certain things, for example, of what happened in not the climax, but the big moment that happens in Pet Sematary. That definitely was suspenseful and shocking to me when I read it. I was like, and I even had to like put the back a page or so. I'm like, does that happen? What I just think? Does that really happen? Oh yeah, that happened. Okay. So that's definitely suspenseful. And I think that he's a master at being able to build you up and not know what's going to happen and then hit you hard with an event that just beats you over the head.
He really has a way with just how he organizes the plot and how he presents it, how he withholds information, or how he shows his cards.
Right.
And you're just like, well, now I got to keep reading. And how he also crosscuts. He crosscuts a lot. And I think that's really well done. I think some authors do that too much to the point where it takes away from moments, but he has seemed to perfect it. And when he cuts, he cuts at the right time.
Right. Because there's so many people when that happens that they feel like, oh, I was really enjoying that part. And now you're forcing me to go to this.
But he doesn't do it the whole book. He does it at a specific moment, mainly toward the end. Question for you both. Have you read The Running Man? I have not.
I have not, and I have it on my list to read because I really enjoyed the original movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger a lot. And I know it's probably extraordinarily different. And then when the new Running Man movie came out, it reminded me that I haven't read that yet. So it's on my list of things to read by him.
Let's catch up here. Books worth reading. Okay, we got Brad right here. I think one thing that makes a book universally worth reading is that as the reader gets something out, whether that is pure entertainment value, you learn something, etc. Yeah, that's definitely an aspect. And I think that's just something in general in anything we do. If you get something out of it, like you come away with something.
You want to feel that you've grown in some way, whether it's emotionally, whether it's intellectually. That's going to make you say, yeah, that book meant something to me and I'm going to recommend it to someone else because maybe you'll have that same feeling as well after you complete it.
Yeah, there are books that I'll read that I'm like, cool, that was fun. That was good. But it's not going to stay with me forever. Right. And that's going to happen. But there's only a handful of books that will stay with me forever that I will recommend to anyone.
Right. And that's why I recommend those two that I mentioned earlier. And there's just tons of others. And there isn't much that I read that I absolutely detest and just say, don't ever read this. I hate it. I think that if it gets to the point, as long as it isn't like a self-published book, right? So self-published books, there can be ones that are really excellent, but there are a lot of them that are just, someone's really having a shot trying to write and be an author. Yeah. And I applaud people who try to do that, but they probably don't have a professional editor, things like that. So some of those that I've read, I've definitely been kind of, but any published book probably has some aspect to it that's worthwhile. And so I usually try to hang in there and try not to DNF because I'll usually get something out of it, even if it isn't my favorite thing. So I encourage people to just read and don't worry necessarily that this isn't the best thing that I've read. I think I even said that to you, right? That almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you don't want to finish Lonesome Dove, right? Because you're enjoying it so much that you don't want that experience to end. And I was just trying to tell you, it's like, there are going to be there are thousands and thousands and thousands of books. It's like, so don't get too hung up on these ones that you really enjoy. Just enjoy them for that moment as you're reading them, and realize you're going to find other books that you enjoy, maybe not as much as that one, but I can pretty much guarantee, just like you maybe have thought you would never find a book as good as Name of the Wind, now you found it in Lonesome Dove. You'll find a third and then a fourth and a fifth that you enjoy as much.
And that's the cool thing about reading, is you're going to find that. And I think
so many. It's insane how many authors we've had, and how many novels, and how many nonfiction books. But
also, it is crazy how many I'm sure there's tons of great books, but I think masterpieces, granted it's subjective, but like objectively, like this is art. This is like, this took time. An author took time to write this. I saw Donna Tartt is now finding her way into my algorithm because I mentioned Goldfinch, which is on my list.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm really excited to read her stuff. She had an interview with someone. I think it was that famous interviewer guy. I don't know his name. He's old.
He's old.
But she's like, she takes 10 years for each book. And I love hearing that, because I think nowadays authors are just writing so flippin' fast. Cool. Great. If you can do it. Like Stephen King, he writes so fast.
He does.
Brandon Sanderson. But it is nice to think of the folks who you don't hear from anymore, because they're either writing or they're dealing with something, or they've clearly they just take time writing their stuff.
And John Irving is one of those people, because he has like 16, 17, it's somewhere around there, novels. And he started like in the late 60s, I think. So if you think about it, it's like, that sounds like a lot of books, but not over 50 plus years. Because I think he only comes out with a book when he has something to say.
And I think that's important for an author to, I mean, granted, I'm not an author and I can't put myself in the shoes, but.
And we have a society now which just rewards really fast thinking and fast consumption. So I get why people are just trying to put things out there. They have so many forms of entertainment to choose from. So you've just got to try anything that you can to grab their attention. So put something out as often as possible to make sure that you are always right there in front of their face.
That is something, because of how, how publishing is definitely a different ball game now than it was even 10 years ago.
Completely different. It's crazy.
And I mean, I'm thinking of like Patrick Rothfuss. Granted, sure, he's got some baggage. There's George R. R. Martin, and then Scott Lynch, Donna Tartt, who just but I just love that they take their time writing, or they don't put that pressure on themselves. Donna Tartt, in her interview, she's like, I tried writing a book in a year. Right. I don't like it. It's not fun. And that spoke volumes. Like, wow, yeah, that is something. So then we talk about books, like good books, great books, but like masterpieces. I'm so curious how long it took certain authors to write those books that have like stood the test of time, versus the books that are, in the door, out the door.
My guess is that it probably depends on the person. Some people are just really, really have a knack for it and can do that within a short period of time. And some people probably, I'm no author myself. I've done a bit of writing here and there for school and things like that. But, and I imagine some people, they really have to think about it in order to construct their passages and paragraphs and words in a certain way that's going to end up speaking to an audience. And so while I definitely agree that for a person, their enjoyment is subjective, I do think that there are certain criteria that makes a book good and certain things not good. So that's why we have in organizations like the Pulitzer Prize, where they award books that are good. And that's what you're finding, right, with Lonesome Dove. It was awarded the Pulitzer Prize. And so therefore, that as long as this is you know what, maybe even if it's not a subject that you enjoy, I imagine there are plenty of people who are not into the setting of a Western who still enjoy the book. And I would argue it's probably, I've not read the book, so I can't say for certain, but what I've found is that books like that, it doesn't matter what the setting is. That's just the thing that drives the story forward and keeps it going. But it's really about something else. And usually it's about the characters and how they react to what is happening to them, the plot. So it really doesn't matter what that setting is. It's just the thing that the author is using in order to continue to drive the story forward. John Irving, too, he was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for The World According to Garp. So that's why these authors, you're going to get something good out of it. They really are using techniques that have proven to, over the test of time, to be outstanding literary and artistic works. And places like, and organizations like the Pulitzer Prize are there in order to be able to honor those works. So I think if you go to their things that they've either nominated or that they've awarded the prize to over the last 50 years, you're not going to have a bad experience reading one of those.
Isn't that crazy that you would think, you know, like the Oscars, it's like, oh, that film probably didn't deserve the Oscar.
Right.
But then you got this book award that more often than not knocks it out of the park, which I think is rare in the scheme of awards, you know, Grammys and Emmys. And so the funny thing, I genuinely trust the Pulitzer Prize. When I see that badge on a book, I'm like, okay, I'm actually intrigued. Granted, because I'm reading one and I recognize it. I recognize this as something that might have taken some time, definitely took some effort. And I'm all in it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, so I finally, because you've really enjoyed it, it's come up so many times on Booktube. For some reason, it just seems to be getting a lot of talk lately. So I've definitely now put it on I should probably read this sooner rather than later. And I think the only reason I'm not is because it's rather long. And so I have so many long books that I'm reading. So I've got to figure out, and it's also part of a series, right? So it's like, then do I have to read all of them? So, well,
I don't think you do. The cool thing is I'm going to just read Lonesome Dove and then take a break. And then I'll go back to those other two. I mean, it's interesting with you because you're reading so many large books.
You gotta find
those little tiny ones to cleanse the palate.
So I'm doing that right now because I just finished 2 large books. I finished the Fifth Wheel of Time, and I finished East of Eden. So now I'm reading Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, and I decided to read A Scanner Darkly because I know you were interested in it, and I've read 2 or 3 other books by Philip Dick that I really enjoyed. So I said, hey, I should read this now. And I haven't read any sci-fi in a while, and they're only like about 300 pages each, so I can usually polish them off in a couple of weeks tops, depending on how much time I'm putting into reading. Because otherwise, even though I agree with you that you should enjoy what you're reading and don't worry about how long it is or any of that, sometimes it still feels like, wow, this is taking a really long time. And especially if I'm reading 2 or 3 books at the same time that are around 600, 1,000 pages, it's like all of a sudden it's like, boy, it's been like 6 weeks and I haven't finished anything. But then usually I get to the end of both of them at roughly the same time. So it's like, oh, I finished the Fifth Wheel of Time. And then, I just finished East of Eden, like within 2 days of each other.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I recognize, okay, I'm kind of at that point where I'm not saying in the back of my head, like, okay, I really need to finish this book because of this and this and this. No, I'm at that point where I want to finish this book. I want to see it to the end. I want to know what happens. And I just want to, I want to put a little bow on it and maybe not move on, but I just want to finish it.
I'm really looking forward to you finishing it and hearing what you have to say about it.
I'm excited because
that may give me that extra push to really move it up on my reading list.
Yeah, I'm gonna do like a quick little video when I finish it, kind of like how I normally do it. But then I really want to get in deep and really structure a full-on book review with very similar to kind of how Tutor Ramble does it. I don't know if you've seen their channel; they're great. I had a live stream with them a week or so ago. they have it really organized with categories. They do spoiler-free pitch, spoiler-free review, and then spoiler section. And I want to do that. I want to challenge myself to really provide a few more details.
I think it would be great. And I think for those that have read the book, you want to talk about the things that happen in it. And if you're completely spoiler free, you can. And then it feels like that you're you're talking around the book rather than about the book. So yeah, you have to unfortunately sacrifice part of your audience. But if it's someone like me, you will go back to it. Like if you get me excited enough, the spoiler free action sections, then I will go out and read it, then come back and watch the spoiler section so that I can get, so I can have that interaction about what was the book about and how did it strike you and why did you think it was so great?
One of my favorite books that I often think about is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Read it 3 or 4 years ago, and it has a great message about good and evil. Hey guys, hello from the frigid Canadian prairies. Just saw the live vid, so popped in to say hello. Unfortunately, I can't stay. Well, sorry I missed your chat by 10 minutes, Ryan, but thank you for popping in and saying hi. Conversation about writing so fast is reminding me of what Jeff Tweedy saying about release triple album for people to enjoy in long form art. I'm not familiar with Jeff Tweedy. Are you?
Me neither. I am not, but I definitely think I understand what they mean about triple albums. Like you just, and it can be really difficult if you're a musician to kind of throw something into one 45 minute LP. So you definitely saw in the 70s and 80s more albums that artists would do that would be double albums, like for example, Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti, so that you could really say something significant over the course of closer to 90 minutes and it would be too difficult and you would feel edited at 45.
I've tried writing a book multiple times. I have a lot of ideas, but I can't build an actual story to save my life. Writing is tough. It's a muscle that you've got to work out. And some ideas just pop out and it works. And other times but the more you write, the better you get at it. And you just got to keep writing.
Yeah, I would say to take a look on some books about writing. I would say J. Michael Straczynski, who did the TV show Babylon 5, is a very successful writer, and he has a great book about writing. So I would recommend to people to do that. I know that a lot of people on Booktube really enjoy Stephen King's book on how to write. So that might be good as well.
Yeah. And for me,
how's your book coming along, right? You're writing something.
I would love to. If I were ever to write anything, it would. I don't know actually anymore because I've gotten kind of out of fantasy. But if I were, I kind of like the idea of fantasy.
Yeah.
But less fantasy and, like you mentioned, kind of it being the background and more just focused on the characters and what's within it, rather than the fantasy being the focus. And there's a lot of. It's funny where you've got authors that clearly focus on the fantasy and less about the characters, or the world less about the characters, and or it's the fantasy is so surface level, yet I don't know, it's not well thought out to the point you're just kind of like, okay, this doesn't even feel like a fantasy book because it doesn't feel like a believable world.
Yeah, it's just like I said about the other things. You have to have the right balancing act out of all these things. And if one of them is going to be really low, then the other portions better be really high and great in order to be able to compensate for that. And I suspect that you're bouncing off of fantasy right now because so many of them, especially more modern ones, are really focused on the world and the magic system. After a while, it's like, I don't know. I'm tired of that. Play role-playing games. There's so much emphasis on that in role-playing games. And so now I'm more interested in what the characters are doing with regards to the story that they're invested in and how they're growing and changing over that, with the colorful add-ons being the magic world and the system and all of that. But as I know you've talked about and I've thought, Brandon Sanderson, it's really important to him. His magic is magic. And
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
find, we both read Mistborn, the first one, Fallen
yeah,
Empire, whichever one it is. And there's
yeah.
just so much detail about how his magic system works. And I'm just like, yeah, this is like a video game. It's like I'm playing the beginning of Dishonored or something. And I feel like I'm going through the
Exactly. That's
brain
exactly
levels. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So,
There needs to be a balance, and I
yeah,
thought what I love so much about Name of the Wind was there was a very intimate balance to the world and the characters, with how the world felt like a character,
yeah,
how even the poetry or the stories within the stories, um, the magic system, the it's not this high fantasy world. It doesn't
no,
distract you from Quoth's story, and that's why I loved it so much, and why I still love it. Say what you want about it, everyone else, but I just love that it's not your typical fantasy book, and that's why it started my journey into reading.
right. I was pleasantly surprised to it. I think, to be honest, that I came across it because you had read it. And I found your channel because it was at the end of last year. Brandon Sanderson was coming out with a new book uh, in the Stormlight series,
Yeah.
and I've had Way of Kings free from Torah.com like for years. The same thing with the Eye of the World, first book of Wheel of Time. And I finally wanted to. I said, all right, I'm going to finally read these things. And I think because I was doing searching on YouTube, that's how I came across your channel. And then you had recommended Name of the Wind. And so I spoke to a couple of my friends who had also read it. They were really positive about it. So I read it. And while I was reading it, I wasn't sure. But when I was done and I thought back on it, I said, this is a really interesting book. And especially what he's going through and what things are real and what things maybe aren't real that he's portraying as real. And why is Patrick Rothfuss doing this? I find it fascinating. I found the two really great books, and I enjoy them even if he never comes out with a third. I hope that he does, even if he has to, whatever his deal is, it's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
roughly his age. I definitely can probably understand why problems, how they can prevent you from completing things that you really want to complete. But it will never take away from the fact that those two books really made me think a lot. And I think that they're worth reading for anyone who has an interest in that sort of thing. But we could spend hours talking about Name of the Wind and what it means and what the characters go through.
I would say the same thing goes for Song of Ice and Fire, where I see that ranked so high on people's lists, regardless if it's finished or not.
Yeah,
people still say it's a well worth story.
I was so pleasantly surprised by it personally. It really was, of how good it was. Because I started reading it towards the end of the TV show with my goal being I'm going to read all of these things so that then I can watch like the last season or so of it. But it took me like, I don't know, a few years. I forgot, like 3 years, because I read other things as well.
Yeah.
Get through it. But that first book, I was just so surprised of how much I enjoyed it. Because I just figured, people are always just talking about how great the TV show was. And people talked about how good the books were too. So I was expecting, it's probably overrated. I really enjoyed it. All the first 3 books, especially, they were really, really riveting, and definitely worth it. Would I like him to come out and finish it? Sure. If he doesn't, what can I do?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to
prevent me from deciding to read them.
I want to make a video on, in my maybe a hot take opinion, but I believe authors don't owe us anything.
No,
I think. I just think we are graced with this opportunity to read a book that they wrote and they're sharing us, because we could be writing something, you and me.
That's right.
And it could be stuck in a drawer our whole lives, but for us to share that book with others. So when authors do that, I think it's a great gift that authors do that. They want to share that with us. They write this for us to go on an experience, and maybe they owe their publisher something, maybe they whatever, but I really think that this pressure on authors is so unnecessary.
It's got to be so difficult now with social media and the internet, whereas before you just wouldn't have that direct pressure. And it's very hard, I think, for people to not, for those authors, actors, people that are in the public eye to not look at social media and see what and hear what people are saying about them. And then it's not helping. I don't think those poor comments by people are making them go, yay, I'm going to go out and do this now because you're upset that I haven't finished this book yet. No, it probably puts more pressure and makes it worse on them. So I try to have empathy with people like Martin and Rothfuss and what situation they're in, and just be thankful that I got 2/3 of the story, even if I don't get all the words.
Exactly. Like I always say, it's the journey, not the destination. So you don't need an ending to, have that journey. I don't know. You could still enjoy the journey and not have the ending.
And as I've said to you before, there are thousands of other great books out there. It's like, so you'd like to see how this one ends, but there are lots of TV shows that never get finished either due to X, Y, and Z.
It's funny. I
do something else and enjoy that.
After finishing Name of the Wind, that was my world. Like that was all I was thinking about. And I'd compare and contrast everything else I would read after that, but also I'd Google Doors of Stone once a week, because I'm just like, oh, anything. And I had a friend who recommended me this this other series, but she was like saying, like, I think it might be coming out this year. I'm like, really? But now I see the reality of the situation. We don't know. We never will know. Stop putting hope on that.
Exactly.
Just go enjoy the books. And I've discovered Wheel of Time, which was finished. I discovered all sorts of books. Thomas, the way you speak about fantasy and what you love about it, I feel that I must recommend you The Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. This is not the first and not the last recommendation I got.
Oh, really?
Have you any experience of this? Because I haven't heard of it.
I do not. I really have never been the biggest fantasy person, other than when I started, I was actually in school, in late elementary school, middle school, 7th and 8th grade, I think. I read The Hobbit, and then that got me interested in Lord of the Rings. So I read that in high school. But it's only recently that I started to read more fantasy. Actually, when I started to get into Dungeons and Dragons again in 2000, I started to read a lot of R.A. Salvatore's books, because he does them all in the Forgotten Realms and are very popular for Dungeons and Dragons books. So other than that, I really did not read fantasy. I was more of a sci-fi and classic sort of person. And then it was only, I think, really last year where I was like, oh yeah, I've got these free books that I got of Brandon Sanderson, who everyone says is great, and this Robert Jordan guy, who everyone says is great. Maybe I should read these.
Yeah.
So I did.
High fantasy is antithetical to what I like in speculative fiction. Give me a short, sharp story any day that drops the mic and leaves. Many people do. Yes, I love that. That's a very good point. I love when that's why I like, again, Name of the Wind. It alludes to so much more, but it doesn't explain everything. And I don't think it ever overstays its welcome.
No.
And it just leaves. Literally, it leaves because there's no third book. But I love that. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to burn out on these series that are really, really long, and they just feel like they're never going to finish them, and they may have other things that they want to read. So it has to be really worth your time and investment. So with Wheel of Time, I picked it up because plenty of people are saying how great it is. I have a great friend that I've known since college who absolutely loves it and has read it like 3, maybe 4 times, the whole thing. And he gets to experience it with me now that I'm reading it. I think he's really enjoying hearing what I have to say about it and what I think about it. I know that I'm going to get a great experience by the end. So I'm willing to invest in that. So many of these other newer fantasy things, I don't know, it's a big time chunk.
It is interesting when you have books, we talk about what makes a book worth reading. How many books are in the series?
Yeah.
More often than not, if I see a book that's being written now, or maybe it just got finished and it's 7, 8, 10, whatever books, I don't know. My time is valuable.
Yeah. So with me, even though a lot of Booktube people really like the Sun Eater series and the Red Rising series, and I'm like, and especially with something like, The Sun Eater, I read about 50 pages. I know you've read it all. And
Yeah.
I just like, this is okay, but it seems like it's a very poor man's Dune to me at this point. And I just said, I can't do it. And I know everyone says, oh yeah, it just picks up in the later books. And I can't do it.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
With nowadays, and I don't think I'm reaching. I think nowadays there is a trend where the first book is not good.
Yeah.
So why write the first book? Like, just take that extra year or 2 or 3 and hash it out and make it a good first book. I don't know why these authors are really, and then, the second book is,
yeah.
Yes. I'm hearing this over and over again. Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just that they haven't really plotted it out properly and thought of what the end is and all the pieces in the middle. For example, I know John Irving, he writes like the last sentence or paragraph, like first. He has to have it done before he will do the rest of the book. So I wonder if for people like George R.R. Martin and Patrick Rothfuss and maybe some of these other folks who are younger that are making these large series, that they're not thinking that far ahead. So then the initial books just feel like they're spinning wheels a bit. I'm not a writer or an author. I don't want to, I don't want to like overly be critical of their process, but I just, with my limited time, I just can't, even with the Sun Eater, because it would be great if it turned into something different because I feel the first 50 pages of the first one is just too kind of like Dune, but we'll focus on this aspect of it instead of this. And so, so right now, no, I haven't read it. I did buy the first Red Rising book for a pretty cheap price on the Kindle. Hey, I'll probably read it eventually.
Me too. I got coffee with a friend and he let me borrow it because I don't want to buy it.
So that's always good.
I might give it a shot after Lonesome Dove because I think, granted, it goes against what I normally say I like, which is I like slower paced books. And this is a very neck break, fast paced trilogy. Right. I think that's a good time to dive into it after reading the same book for 6 months. So I think it'd be nice to do that and really see what it's all about.
I want to read it because I like this genre that I believe that it's in. I don't know that much about it, so I can't be sure, but I believe that it has some similarities, at least with the first book, with the Hunger Games. And I like that thing of people battling for their lives for a certain goal. So things like that. Lord of the Flies is a fantastic book that does that. The Running Man does that. So I like that genre. Battle Royale does that. So I wanted to see how this person does it. So I said, well, even though people say that gets better with books 2, 3, whatever, I'm like, for $1 or $2, I'll give it a shot at some point.
Joanna Reed's a lovely booktuber. I was on her channel.
Yeah, I remember that.
Something extremely similar. What makes a good book? And I basically didn't realize. So last night when I was going through our emails, Greg, and I was looking at the topics that you sent, that what we could potentially talk about, and you were talking about like the 3 things that, make a good book or something. And I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. And I make it and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. That sounds very familiar. And then I go to Joanna Reed's and I look at her thumbnail. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just the same. It's the same thing, but like I think 2 words are switched. What makes a book good, or what makes a good book? And I'm like, you know what? I don't think she'll get mad at that. But please go check out her channel right now and go on her live stream that we did. And she's got other stuff. She also does a series with other booktubers, just promoting the question, why read? And I love how simple that is. But that's kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about what makes a book worth reading. And I guess I was going to ask, so maybe to kind of close things out, if we were to, I guess, prioritize the elements of a book, what would you prioritize? Like, okay, this has to be perfect, or this has to be exceptional. So characters, plot, theme, that kind of stuff.
Right. So for me, those are the three most important things. And that's why, even though I believe there are other parameters and other facets of a book and qualities of a book, those three are the most important to me personally. And if all of those are really firing on all cylinders, by the end, I'm going to have a fantastic experience. And if any one of them is a little bit lacking, then the other two have to be really great for me in order to be able to consider that book a good read. It would be really hard for me to determine which of those three are the most important. Probably character, if I had to guess. I really like a character who grows and changes over the course of a book based on the plot, right? It was like, what things are thrown at them and how do they grow? How do they learn? What is it that they do in this situation in order to be able to deal with the problems that they're being thrown at? So I think those two are really important. And then theme is also important, but perhaps a little bit secondary. It's more of like when I go back over it, what is this book about? What did it teach me? What is the author trying to say about the world and his relationship to it? Then I think that is really important. I think that's one of the things that I really like, for example, about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I know you bounced off it, but maybe if you try it again sometime, you might think a little bit about what is it that Douglas Adams is trying to say about humanity, and how do they think about themselves and their importance in the world. And I think that's what that book is about. And I think that sometimes maybe people don't see it. And so that's something I really like about it, and reflecting back on it, and probably why I liked it so much when I was a kid, and why it spoke to me and lots of people of my age who were really into British humor and that sort of self-deprecating sense of humor. And you're not as great as you think you are. This is why.
That is one element that I think is very important when the messaging or the theme or even the story is not explained or told. Like, I love it when I'm able to reflect on it and interpret it.
Yeah.
Mainly in filmmaking. I love when the visuals speak louder than the dialogue. But in a book, I love it when I'm able to reflect and the theme is not on the nose. The messaging is not on the nose. It's just kind of interwoven within the sentences, and you slowly, subtly see it and feel it. Well, I say I think a good theme is felt, not seen.
Right.
Just because if it's seen, then I think it's too on the nose, and it might be too much of the author coming out of the page. And I think Joanna and I were talking about that.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And I think that you're more likely to see it after the fact. If you reflect back on what you read, then you'll be like, oh, that's what they were trying to say. That's really interesting.
For me, a great or worthwhile book takes risks, doesn't pander to its readers, knows when to end. I mean, that's actually really nice too. And also, when a book takes, or an author takes risks, you need to have the objectivity as a reader to trust that author. Because sometimes I jump off of books. Well, I'm choosy. I'm picky with what I choose to read, so I don't jump off a whole lot. But if I do jump off, it's because I'm like, okay, I don't want to build trust in you right now. And mainly that's the writing style. I need a good writing style that doesn't feel, I need it to feel unique or something I've never read or experienced before. And that's actually, I think, a pillar that takes priority for me with a book that's worth my time. Because that's how I initially judge it, but within the first chapter or two.
Right.
And then when that is, okay, we've passed that, we're on to the next pillar, characters. I think for me, it's characters, regardless of the world and genre or theme. I think characters that I eventually may care about, or just am at least intrigued by. Right. That's important. And If that's not there, then I'm not going to care about the world. I'm not
Right.
going to care about this or that. Why would I want to follow this story? And Name of the Wind, keep bringing this up as an example, but I think it's a good example because I cared for that character
Right.
regardless of what was happening in his life. A lot of people say Rothfuss can describe paint drying, and people would read it, and I would read that. That honestly makes a book worth reading for me if I
Right.
care about the character regardless of like what's actually happening, or even if there is a plot or not, which is crazy.
No, I don't think it's crazy. Not at all.
It's like some people want to read for a plot and they want that.
Right.
And for me, I think maybe the plot is just life, that character's life, and it may not be spectacular. It may be very mundane, but to me, that speaks volumes.
I'd be interested to see what you would think. I don't know if you've read any like just mystery novels, for example, which are really focused on the plot. I read a lot of Agatha Christie when I was in middle school and high school, and they are, 80%, it's really the plot and what happens to it that makes the reader excited. However, the main characters in them, and one of the reasons she's popular is because the characters of, say, Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple are extraordinarily interesting personalities. So that takes you through the story and through their eyes what it is that you are going to find out by the end. But still, regardless of that, it's mostly about the mystery and how is it going to unfold. So I'll be I'd be kind of curious about what you would think of something like that. I'm also reminded, because I read last year Philip K. Dick's Maze of Death, which is sort of a mystery as well, which is why I wanted to read it. It's like a locked room sort of a mystery. And that book was not high on character development, but it had a very interesting story, and that kept me interested all the way through. There's another book, Six Wakes, that's like that as well, that I read a couple of years ago, which is a sci-fi, a locked room murder mystery thing. So I'd be curious to know what you think about books like that, which don't focus as much on the characters.
Well, that would be fun. I mean, I do want to read Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I also want to read...
Oh, those are really good.
In Cold Blood.
That was really good too. I read that a few years ago. Truman Capote, right? Yeah, highly recommend them. You'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy them.
And a point you made is personality. That's something you don't really think about. You just feel it when it's written so dang well. You'll notice that in Lonesome Dove. Each character has their own personality, and I think that is so rare. I feel like a lot of modern books are just characters or vessels for exposition, and they might have a quirk that they'll constantly do over and over and over again. And you definitely see that in Wheel of Time every now and then.
Sure. Only every now and then.
But this is nice. Completely agree with the point you just made on the importance of good characters. John Grady Cole from All the Pretty Horses, Enough Said. Gosh, what a great book. I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't, no.
Okay. Do you have any experience with Cormac McCarthy?
I haven't, interestingly enough, only that I've seen the movie No Country for Old Men, whatever it's called. So I have seen that. But yeah, so it's another thing. There's just so many books out there. And I just realized when I look at this, like, all these things that I haven't read yet. So at some point, maybe I'll read The Road, because I know that it's really popular and I'd like to see why that's popular. That's his, right?
Yeah. And did that win the Pulitzer?
I don't know.
Okay.
But because of that, I was thinking of reading No Country for Old Men because I did really enjoy the movie as well. That I did a lot when I was younger. I read so many. It was like the other way around. I read lots of novelizations of movies. That's what I did in my younger days. Like, I'd see Star Wars, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, The Black Hole, like all these movies. And then I just get the Tron, and I have them all these mass market trade paperbacks of these novelizations. And they were always really great because you get to like a lot of things that they either didn't happen in the movie because they didn't have time to film it, or it got cut, or the author just decided to put a little extra in them. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed those, but it's also interesting going the other way too, like I did with Jurassic Park. Read it first, then saw the movie.
And you mentioned right before we went live, about Dune.
Yes.
And re-explain that again, about how you said the films are, they're long, they feel long, but they take a lot out.
I do personally feel I've seen, I believe, all of the Dune cinema adaptations. The original one was done by David Lynch. And then there was one that was done as a TV series on the Sci-Fi Channel, which does the first 3 books. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Villeneuve's version of them. And I like all of them for a variety of reasons, but I feel none of them, except maybe in some ways David Lynch's Dune, gets the voice of Frank Herbert quite right as the narrator, and being able to, in the book, he constantly is going in all of the characters' heads so that you can hear what it is that they think about certain situations. And you just don't get that at all in Villeneuve's movies. And I feel that that's really, so you're missing something there. You're missing what Herbert's voice is and what he has to say. David Lynch did it and people found it goofy because he will often have the character's thoughts be thrown out there. So you'll often hear Paul Atreides' thoughts. And it's a little odd and unusual, but I think because he does that, it gets a little bit closer to what it's like to read the book and to be able to read Herbert's words and the way that he puts them together. So I really recommend that you read Dune. It actually, when I first read it, it took me 2 shots to get through it. It's a dense book. Yeah. It's a little unusual because of his voice and the way that he writes. But if you take your time with it and really make a point of trying to appreciate what he's doing rather than maybe what you would like. I always try to do that with every author.
Exactly. That's a good point.
You know, it's like so many people feel that it's like, oh, I don't like this because I want this. And it's like, well, maybe it's worthwhile every now and then to put aside what it is that you want and try to appreciate what it is that the author is trying to do. I think you have to do that for Dune in order to be able to really appreciate it, especially because, it's so well known now. The new Dune movies did extraordinarily well, and deservedly so, in the box office.
That's something I talked about with Joanna and Tudor Ramble is I love when an author is able to fluidly and effortlessly go in between different perspectives. And that's what I love in Lonesome Dove. And then I mentioned that, and then Richard from Tudor Ramble was like, hey, when you read Dune, he'll switch perspectives within a sentence.
It's so hard to do because if you don't do it well, then the reader's going to be confused, but maybe not necessarily know why they're confused unless they read it back again and they go, oh, it's because this was done in a jarring way. But Herbert does it in a he's just skilled at it.
Wow.
And so you don't notice when you're reading it. It just feels natural to go from one character's point of view to another. And it makes you really care and be interested in those characters because you're directly hearing their voice and what it is that they're thinking at that moment. So I can't recommend it enough. I know that it's really popular now, but I still think people don't necessarily read the book as much as they should. And I bet that's what's going to happen with with Wuthering Heights, not to hop what I just did.
No, it is. I think I've been seeing more and more people with it in their hands.
Are they reading it though? I read a recent article that said that people are buying it, but they're not necessarily reading it, that they're trying, but they're having trouble reading it because
it might be their very first book.
Maybe.
No joke. It might be. I don't know the stats, but it might be one of their first, or because it's a classic, right?
Absolutely. So it's a really interesting, fascinating book, but it is a tougher read because it bounces around time.
People might not
time jumps and stuff.
Be prepared.
But from what I understand is that there's a lot of people who are interested in romantasy that are picking it up because it has those themes and elements to it. And because a lot of the romantasy is a little bit on the easier side to read, and they're getting to this and they're like, whoa, I am having difficulty.
I've had this up for too long. This is my nitpick, but I really hate when a chapter ends after 5 pages or lower. I like chapters with longer than 5 pages in a book. Interesting.
That is interesting.
I think I don't really think about that much. I think of I really do enjoy when an author is kind of like, here's a scene, here's the next scene. You know, you're going to see that in Wheel of Time. I mean, we see that in Wheel of Time.
Right.
I think we see it in Stephen King books too, where there's like a page break. I've enjoyed that aspect. I like that.
I do too.
But I also enjoy longer chapters because I don't know. I guess it's something I don't think about. It's just kind of subconsciously experienced.
Sometimes I notice it. Like, for example, I'm reading Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle now, and I swear most of the chapters are like a page long. It's really fascinating, a page and a half. And you're like, and especially after Wheel of Time, where many of the chapters are between 20 and 45. It takes me 20 to 45 minutes to read it because I have it on Kindle, so I'm not sure of the exact page number, but it's a lot of pages. And yeah, they have area breaks within them, but it still takes you a while before, you know, you hit the 3 wheels and go to the next chapter. But yeah, this Vonnegut book, it's like, it's so short and you're just like, what? It's been a different experience.
Have either of you seen Wuthering Heights yet? No.
I have not. I really would like to see it at some point because I enjoy Robbie a lot. And I would like to see her, even though my understanding is it's very different from the book. And I enjoyed the book quite a bit.
Alex, thank you so much, man. I am gonna use that.
Oh, that's really nice.
I appreciate that.
Cool.
I couldn't have appreciated Shakespeare fully in high school. I think I had to be an adult to enjoy it as I am. Yeah, it's crazy when we're reading in high school, we're kind of, you know, it's pushed on us, you know, with all these books and all these classics, and they're so dry. And we just don't have that appreciation. We don't have that mind, you know, we're still growing up and figuring out who we are in this world.
Your brain isn't fully formed to be able to get those concepts, you know? So for me, I was definitely like that. There were things I liked about them, but they always seemed long and tough to read because of the language. And it wasn't until I got into college and I took a course or two studying Shakespeare that I got to appreciate it more. So yeah. I definitely agree with that comment.
Well, I think this about does it. I really appreciate everyone hopping in. We've been chatting for about a little over an hour about books, but also kind of elements of what makes a book worth reading. If you missed this, or if you didn't, you know, leave a message in the chat, please comment down below, like kind of what you think are good elements of a book that makes it worth reading. I'd like to talk about that. So Gregg, friend of the channel, really appreciate you hopping on and chatting.
I thank you for having me. This has been a great experience and I've enjoyed talking to you, and I appreciate all of the viewers who checked in and had questions.
Absolutely. Well, hope everyone has a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And we'll be back with more discussions about books and all sorts of stuff.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.